So congratulations on getting access to this video course on how to find your perfect buyer. I believe that by the end of this video course, you will have a totally different mindset. This is something that really hasn't been talked about a lot on the internet, and I really feel like this is one of the main reasons why a lot of people tend to fail when it comes to building businesses online. So this is going to be the introduction and quick overview, and I'll talk about the video course as a whole, and then we're going to talk about mindset and why selling to your audience is more important than, selling your products and service straight up. I mean, that's fine to do later on, but that's oftentimes where people start and fail. So really what we want to do is we want to set you up for success, right? And then we're going to talk about mind mapping tools that will help speed up the process of implementation to help you successfully get on the right path. Okay, so before we get started and talk about mindset and mind mapping tools, I want to give you a quick videos overview of what's inside this video course so you know exactly what to expect. And as you understand how the whole process works, you'll be able to implement this at a faster rate. This is, of course, video number one. Video number two is going to be about researching your competition. Now, the reason why you want to research your competition is because at this point in time, your competition, especially the ones that are doing well in the market and dominating the market, are actually gathering data that you need. So they already have the customers, they already have the traffic, and all you have to do is simply look at them and look at who their buyers are so that you have the right information and you'll be able to figure out who your perfect buyer is, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, and everything of that nature. Video number three is we're going to talk about the basics of profile. So after we have gathered the competition, we want to begin to profile our perfect buyers. And I'll talk more about that, utilizing certain tools that you can use to find that data out. Once we have figured out the basic data, such as who the person is, maybe their age, maybe their income, maybe their education level, we can actually gather even more intel. But before we can do that, we need the basics so that we can match things up and make sure that we are actually headed the right direction. And it'll make more sense when I actually go into that particular video. Video number five, we're going to talk about some shortcuts. So over the years, I've done this many times, and I've figured out some shortcuts to help you speed the process up. So we'll talk about shortcuts in video number five. And video number six, we're going to talk about a typical day that your perfect buyer goes through. Now, the reason why you want to do this is because it's going to reveal to you a lot about your perfect buyer. What does their day look like? What are their insecurities? What are their fears? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Everything about them to the point that if you place your product and service right in front of them, will they actually buy it, or will they just totally ignore you? So that's just something good to know before you actually build up your products and services. Because a lot of people make the mistake of just launching their products and services, not realizing who their perfect buyer is, and then of course later on wondering, why in the world is their product and service not selling? I'm sure you've been there, and I've been there as well. And you have made the right choice in taking this first step. And then, of course, video number seven, we're going to talk about media mapping. So what that is we are going to utilize certain media sources to really go deeper and dive deeper into understanding the perspective of your perfect buyer. What are things that they like to watch? What are things that they don't like? And it'll just make things more evident to you as far as putting yourselves in their shoes. Because sometimes putting yourself in other people's shoes is a hard thing to do. Just saying, hey, put yourself in those shoes and think like them, that's not always an easy thing to do. But this media mapping in video number 7, that will definitely clear things up. And of course, last but not least, we have video number 8, which is going to be talking about buying habits. So this is going to reveal to us what they buy. And by knowing that and knowing the habits, how much money do they spend and everything like that, that is going to reveal to you future products and services that you can open up at a later date. So this is not just finding the perfect buyer, it's finding what they want at the end of the day. So you see why this is so important and how it's going to make a huge difference in your business? Well, hopefully at this point you are excited as much as I am excited about teaching this to you and helping you out. So let's talk about mindset. Now, up until this point, you kind of realize that it is so important to find that perfect buyer. So really what I want you to do before you even begin this video course is to understand that the biggest mistake that most product owners make is selling their features alone. So if you build, say for example, a piece of software, a lot of people tell, this software can do this, it can do that, but really what it comes down to is your perfect buyer, or maybe your non-responsive buyer even, they're still thinking what's in it for me, right? So that comes down to benefits. How does maybe the software can speed the process up, but the benefit in that case is that it can save time. And if you know their typical day, you can say it saves time. So, if you're trying to rush and get your kids ready, if you know that that is your particular demographic, then you can speak to them, right? But if you know that, let's say, for example, that they're retired, you can say, well, the kids are out of the house, you're waking up, you're looking for things to do, or you're looking to build your business or whatever that they are trying to do, then you know how to speak to them, right? So that's why benefits are so crucial. Now, you have probably been hammered down and been taught that benefits are crucial, but let me challenge that at the same time. Let me ask you, how do you know if these benefits are really the benefits of your perfect buyer? Because if you don't know your perfect buyer, how do you know if those benefits really are impactful? Do you know even what your perfect buyer looks like? Do you know what their typical day looks like? And do you know their fears and what gets them excited? So you see what I mean here? You need to know your perfect buyer. And without any of that information or that type of intelligence or data about your perfect buyer, you don't even know if the benefits are even going to be impactful or not. So hopefully at this point in time, you have a better perspective of why we are taking this particular approach and why this particular mindset is crucial. So moving on, I want to talk about mind mapping tools. And the reason why is because this is not really required, but that definitely can help you brainstorm and implement things a lot faster. So as far as implementation goes, once you've mapped things out, map out your typical perfect buyer's typical day. If you can map that out, you can always go back to it and take a look at it. It's just easier for the brain to understand things when you map things out. I personally use a free iPhone mind mapping tool. You don't have to spend anything else. You can spend $2, $3 to upgrade to a paid version if you would like, but there are tons of free mind mapping tools out there that you can use. Now, if you like free mind mapping tools that you can utilize on your desktop computer, then you might want to check out XMind. I personally use a software called Lucidchart, and Lucidchart is one of the best paid flowchart tools out there, and definitely will help you kind of map out things out of your mind, and that way you take a look at it in the future, like I said, it's just going to make things a lot easier. So with that said, let's move on to video number 2. Hello and welcome back. This is video number 2, and what we're going to do in this particular video is we are going to research your competition. Now, in doing so, what I recommend that you go ahead and do is open up some sort of notepad, or if you want to write it down, that's fine. But just keep a paper and pencil or some sort of notepad ready so that you can jot down the websites. Now, this is not really complex. What we're looking for is high traffic competitors that might be doing really well, because the more traffic that they are getting, the more these particular tools that we are using will reveal. All right, so let's get started. So the first site that I want you to go ahead and go to is called quantcast.com. That's QUANTCAST. Now, I used to use Quantcast to figure out demographics, but I don't really do it anymore, just because some of the sites will have demographic data and some of them will not. Really what I'm trying to figure out is what are the high traffic websites. So if you go to quantcast.com, you click explore and you type in a keyword. You can type a domain name if you want to, but like I said, we are creating a list of domain names. So go ahead and jot down the keyword that best describes your general niche. Don't be too specific just yet. So in this case, let's say, for example, that I want to create a product or service that primarily appeals to gardeners. So I'm going to type in garden and go ahead and click enter. And Quantcast, as you can see, the free version of this tool is showing the top 3. So as you can see, these are the top 3. This one obviously tells us that US rank is 3,200 and US reach is 600,000. Now, you might want to visit these websites and just make sure that these kind of fit what you're trying to sell, because there have been cases where even though you type in the keyword, the website might be something totally different than what you are trying to sell. Or maybe the demographics for this site is totally different than the demographics of this site. So what I recommend that you do is just go ahead and click on one of these. We can go ahead and view the site and just make sure that that is the type of site that we want to create. So as we can see, this is more of a how-to educational site, which is great. It's a great site with a lot of content posts. So essentially what they're doing is they're branding. So maybe you want to build something like this and you want to attract people in. You want to attract a perfect buyer in, gain their trust so that you can ultimately sell other things. So this is what the site looks like. We can see that it's about gardening, house plants, problems plants might face, lawn care, composting, and other gardening help. So we can see that for the majority of the case, that is our audience. So if that's the case, we want to definitely copy this. I'm going to open up Notepad and put that URL in here. Now that we have this URL, in order to find other URLs, what we need to do is I'm going to close down Quantcast in this site here. There are 2 other sites that I would recommend. Similarsites.com, which basically, if you enter a URL of a website, it'll tell you all of the other websites that are similar to that website. So if I go ahead and press enter here, we can see that gardeningknowhow.com. We scroll down, we see these ads here, and these are not related at all. So just ignore these for now. And then you see Garden Web. So I'm going to open that in a new link. Garden guides, we have yard care, we have helpful gardener, and garden.org. So I'm going to open the top 5 open and just take a look. So we have gardenweb.com, and if I go to the site, let's go to the site and check it out. Sometimes you have to highlight it and just go to the site directly. We can get an idea of a hyper-responsive buyer too if you look through here, and sometimes if they have forums, that'll give you a good chance to see what kind of questions people are asking, kind of their frustrations, their likes, their dislikes, and just to get a feel for what that person looks like. And also, when you look at the websites, is there similarities within the websites? We can see there's a navigation bar, it talks about gardening, kind of like the other site. And then, of course, we have gardenguides.com, which sounds familiar to the other's garden know-how website. And if we take a look here, we have gardening design, spaces, diseases, and it's very interesting how it's broken up. It looks very, very similar. So gardenguides.com actually is very, very similar to gardeningknowhow.com. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the rest of these. We have yardcare.com, helpfulgardener.com, which I think probably would be a lot more targeted. So let's just go to the site here. And what I'm doing here, as you can see, is just looking and seeing if I can find similar patterns throughout all these websites. So we can see garden design. I saw a lot of gardening design, in fact, in the other websites. We can see organic gardening, forums, and more. So I'm beginning to kind of see that this is very similar to the other sites, except for the design of it is not as good as the other ones. So now that I have 3 websites, I'm pretty much good to go now. Now, I want to offer you a different website as well, a similarweb.com. This is a paid tool, but you can still enter these websites in here and find more data about these websites. So if I click that, enter gardeningknowhow.com, you can actually see the rank within worldwide, within US, and the global rank. So this kind of gives us a better picture of the website itself. We can see that it's getting a massive amount of traffic, mainly from the US, Australia, UK, Canada, and India. We can see that the most traffic was from search volume. So this is kind of painting a picture, as we call it. We can see referrals, basically what sites are they coming from. We can see search, we can see social. We can see a lot of these people seem to be on Facebook and Pinterest, which kind of fits it because Pinterest is where a lot of visual people go to, people that are kind of gardeners go to. We see audience interest, so this is kind of reveals to us potential buying habits. But right now we're not really interested in doing too much research. We just want to get an idea of what that basic picture looks like. So you can enter the other ones in here, but that's fine. All we need to do is create that list, as you can see here. And as you can see, we have a list of 3 websites, and that's all we need right now. So in the next video, we're going to take it a step further, but for now, that's all you need. So go ahead and do that right now, and I'll see you in video number 3. Hello, and welcome back to video number 3. And this particular video, we are going to discuss about the basics of profiling. So this is step 1 when it comes to figuring out who your perfect buyer is and what do they look like. So to do that, I want you to get access to the list of websites that you copied earlier and go to a website called alexa.com, as you can see right here. That is alexa.com. So if you go to the site, you will notice that they have a free version, which is limited, and they have a paid version, which gives you all the data that you need. But for this case, you really don't need the paid tool. You can utilize the free version itself. So let's go ahead and plop the websites that we found in the previous video into alexa.com. So I'm going to go ahead and copy gardeningknowhow.com in here. We're going to paste it. We're going to click on find, and here we go. Now, as we can see, the rank is 3,000 and the global rank is 15,000. Basically, the lower the number, the higher the rank. So we know right off the bat that gardeningknowhow.com is getting a ton of traffic. Now, as you can see, this is for advanced plan only, but we really don't care about this right now. What we're looking for is where is our perfect buyer and who is our perfect buyer. So we can see that our potential buyers for this particular website is within the United States, followed by India and the UK. But the majority, 72%, is from the United States. Now, that might be because they are utilizing a specific traffic source. We don't know. It doesn't really matter too much right now. So if you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, you're going to see audience demographics. And this is the data that we want. So opening up our notepad here, right underneath the website, I'm going to jot this down. So we can see gender is female. So it looks to me like it's about a good amount female. And males are underrepresented, but males still do gardening as well. So we can say males, but maybe about 20%, and then females are guesstimate about 80%. So as long as we know that the major demographic in this case is female, we know that we're probably going to speak directly to females. We can see browsing location is at home. So that's a good sign. That means that they are at home. They're not on, the work computer. And that also tells us that if they're more likely to buy something, or if they're on their home computer than if they were on their school or work computer. So that's a good sign. We can say browsing location is home. And then, of course, the education is, it looks to me like mainly graduate school and some college followed by second. So I'm going to copy these two over here. So we can say primarily, say number 1 and number 2, second place, some college. So we know that they are quite well educated types of people in this case, as far as education goes. So they definitely have graduate school, they probably have master's degrees, and some sort of college, bachelor science or basic degree. So in knowing that, we are going to have to speak intelligently to this somewhat educated market. So this is kind of painting a picture here. Let's do the same thing with garden guides. And the reason why I like to do this is because I want to see, is it consistent across the board? If it's not consistent across the board, then maybe there's something different about these specific websites. So I'm going to go back up to the top, the exact same thing, type in gardenguides.com, scroll down, looks like a high traffic website, but we're really more in tune about this. We can see female, some college and graduate, and home. So that's consistent, right? So we don't really need to jot that down, but we can say same thing. Let's do the same thing about the helpfulgardener.com. And it's a good sign whenever everything is consistent, because that means that you're getting the right data. Now, when we look at this, it's a little bit different. We can see Helpful Gardener, same home. A female is still the majority. And we can see that it's mainly college. And yeah, college. So, and males are still less, but at this point, we're looking at Helpful Gardener. And we can see that Helpful Gardener actually, it pretty much adds up, but we can see that there's still males, and males are moving up in that section. So we want to figure out, okay, why is that case? I'm really interested in thinking, why is that the case? Well, if we look at Helpful Gardener one more time, we can see winner of Business Week's magazine Best of the Award. So maybe because Business Week may have a lot of males as a majority and might be coming to this website. So depending on the traffic source, that can reveal different things to us. Now we look at how the site is laid out. We can see flower gardening, garden design, garden forums, gardening tips, gardening. So another thing we can do is, let's see if we can find some sort of garden forum. So I'm going to type in garden forum. And we know there are different types of gardening as well, but let's just go to forums.garden.web.com. So let me just try something real quick. This may not work. Typically you have to enter the main site, not a subdomain, but let's just do this anyways. Okay, so as you know, forums typically are where most of your hyperactive people go. People that talk a lot, people that are very passionate about whatever market it is. So if you can find a forum on a website and then put that into Alexa, that is going to tell you who your hyperactive audience is. So now we can see that it is back to the females being the majority, college, some college, and home seems to be consistent across the board. So this specific strategy and method is really revealing to you, is it consistent across the board? Now that we know that it is indeed across the board consistent, we can pursue it to the next step, which will be the next video as we dig further into the demographic itself. Like, what do they look like, kind of thing. Now, let's say, for example, that you enter two websites and they're totally different. Like one is male and one is female. If that is the case, then I would look at the website and then I would ask yourself, which website actually fits my product and service? Because you'll find out, even in the same niche, in some cases, certain websites are really geared towards males, while other websites may be really geared towards females. So that way, that's how you know what is going to be your perfect buyer, is look at the website. Is the website fitting what I'm trying to sell? So with that said, let's move on to the next video, and I'm sure you're going to be shocked and amazed by how much data you can find out utilizing this free tool. Welcome to video number 4, and this is going to be about gathering more intel. Now, in video number 3, as you saw earlier, we utilized Alexa.com to gather some basic information about our perfect buyer. Now we're going to take it a step further, and you're going to see in just a minute what I mean. So first things first, in order to do this, basically we are going to utilize the Facebook Ad Audience Insights free software application. Now, you obviously do need to have a Facebook account in order to do this. Now, if you log into your account and you go specifically to facebook.com/ads/audience_insights, as you can see here in the address bar, if you go specifically to this URL, you will see the following page. It'll say, choose an audience to start. Either everyone on Facebook or people connected to your page. Now, this is the assumption that you haven't started a page, you haven't started anything yet, your page doesn't have an overflow of traffic to it, so you definitely want to start with everyone on Facebook. Now, the reason why Facebook Audience Insights is so powerful is simply because it allows you to dig really, really deep and dig further into all sorts of things. And I'll show you in just a minute. But what this allows you to do is, this is basically showing you what all these people on Facebook enter into their profile. Their likes, their dislikes, their age, their gender, everything. In fact, Facebook is one of the few big companies that is giving you access to this data. Obviously, they want you to utilize this data for the purpose of Facebook ads, but you can use this data for your own products and services, and for your future ads as well. Now, as you can see here, I generally like to just start out with one country, the United States. Sometimes it'll default to your country, but as you can see, you can add countries as well. But I like to stick with one country, and I'm going to leave everything as it is because I want to see, and we're going to take a look at the demographics we pulled earlier with Alexa. We basically want to make sure that we see patterns that are continuous and consistent patterns that show us consistent data. Now, Alexa.com, we saw that is a majority of female, and there's still some males that are interested in gardening, but not a whole lot. And then we saw that the majority had graduate school or some sort of college, and the other ones as well. So let's go ahead and put the interest in here. So interest right here, where it says interest, put garden or whatever that you're trying to do. So now we see home and garden, we see gardening, Garden of Eden. No, that's not what we're looking for. So we're looking for gardening or garden. So I'm going to do that, and let's just take a look at this. Remember that it was a good amount of women, and I guesstimated about 80% women, 20% men. But realistically, with Facebook ads, it shows that it's 69% women and 31% men. Now, in detail, this is what is nice about Facebook. It gives you a more thorough breakdown of the age range. Now, as we can see that the majority of people are interested in gardening on Facebook are about 25 to 34. Now, then we have 45 to 54. So it looks like the majority are here, and then the majority are the older folks. So 25 to 34, 45 to 64, and then it kind of breaks off. And that's interesting. As I began to think about it, as far as gardening goes, the young folks, 25 to 34, they're not super young, but they're about, they've already graduated college. They already have had probably a job for a decade, and they obviously are interested in gardening. Maybe they have kids and eventually they get out of that stage and then they come back at age 45 to 64. So they could be almost retirement age kind of deal. So that's why I'm kind of painting a picture here. We can see that men as well, the same age, the majority of men that are interested in gardening are about 25 to 34. Which is interesting. And then it kind of breaks off from there. Now, we can see lifestyle, which is something amazing here. You can see the US demographics and interest data based on purchase behavior, brand affinity, and other activities. So basically, this is showing us, out of the majority of people, they are interested in gardening, country ways, clubs and causes, sort of nonprofits. So a lot of country type stuff. Suburban, country, outward, rural lifestyles. Relationship status, the majority of them are married and they have at least college, which kind of matches the exact data that we got from Alexa.com. Job titles, we can see that a large portion of them are in legal, nurses, community social services, healthcare, a lot of medical type stuff, even management. Business management, social sciences. And if we go back up here, we can say page likes. What do they like? What kind of pages on Facebook do they like? Website, books, writers, magazines. What kind of magazines are they reading? Better Homes and Gardens, entertainment, country music, food, beverages, news, media, fictional characters, home and garden. What kind of pages do they like? We can see where the majority might be located. So a lot of Floridians, Florida, upper north, Iowa, Missouri. So a lot of East Coast activity. We can see frequency of activity. How engaging is this particular audience, or how hyper responsive is this audience? What kind of device that are they using? We have household income. How many of them actually own homes? Household size, home market value, and spending methods. And then, of course, purchase methods. And I'll get into that in a later video. But I really want to show you, it really breaks things down. So Alexa kind of gave us a broad overview. And of course, with their paid version, you'll get a more detailed view, but I'm utilizing all free tools here. And this gives us a more specific view. So now you can take a look at this and say, okay, I can have a better view of what this person looks like. Woman, 25 or older, retired woman, perhaps, likes a lot of country type videos and episodes and TV shows. They're a lot into the country comfort and maybe stuff like home goods and stuff in that arena of liking. So now that we have done this, we've essentially painted a better picture of our audience. So what I would recommend that you do now is just to fill this out further, and we can see now that it's majority female, 25 to 34, and then it was 45 to basically 60 plus age groups. So age group equals the following: a lot of country pages and likes. So what I would do is I would just go through all of these and jot everything down, and then from that point we can move on to the next video. Welcome back. This is video number 5, and now that you understand how to figure out the exact demographics by utilizing the Alexa.com tool, the Facebook Ads Audience Insights tool, if you can find a magazine for your particular niche. With magazines, they always have what we call media kits, and within the media kit itself, generally speaking, it will tell you the exact demographic. So you might get some data from these media kits that you might not get from these other tools. And that's why we're using this route in addition to everything else that I have taught you. So finding a media kit is fairly easy to do. All you have to do is go to google.com and you want to type in the niche. So in this case, it is garden. And after that, you type in the word magazine, and then you type in media kit. Now, obviously, like I said earlier in the previous video, you want to make sure that you visit the site and make sure that the magazine fits your products and services, because if it doesn't, then you might getting the wrong data. Okay, so we can see find garden media kits. And if we go to click on images here, we can actually see what the magazines look like. So we have a better idea of what we're dealing with. So for example, if we were to click on Better Homes and Gardens, it's not directly related, but we can see that it is somewhat related. But this gives us a better idea. I've been seeing garden design lately a lot too. So actually in the past 3 websites, I saw garden design. And I don't know if that contains blueprints or anything, but that might be a potential product right there. So just by going through here and finding your perfect buyer and who they are, you can figure out other things as well. So we can see garden magazine media kit. We're going to go through here, and I'm going to go back to all. Just going to go ahead and click these here. We got Better Homes and Gardens media kits, garden and gun media kit, which is probably not exactly directly the same. Organic gardening media kit. And let's just take a look at what we found here. So find garden media kit. Basically, a media kit for a magazine is a page that tells you how much it costs to advertise on their magazine. But in addition to that, it'll also tell you the demographics as well. So not 100% if that's the case for this one. Let's take a look real quick. Okay, so rate card, find garden, 1.2 million unique visitors. Plays online demographics. Aha, see, there we go. Nice. So this is what we wanted. Gender, 80% female. That confirms what we're talking about. Graduated from college. That confirms it as well. Medium income, about $100,000. Age, 59. So we can see that it's kind of more on the older scale. 59 years old. Married, 69%. How big is their garden? How big is their garden that is editable? Wow, that's really, really deep. And their average amount spent per year on gardening related activities. So they're willing to spend up to about $935. So that gives us a good idea of who we're dealing with, right? Now let's check out these other media kits. Sometimes if you go to the main website and you scroll all the way down and you see like a button that says like advertise or anything like that, you'll be able to get the media kits from there. So we can see here, media kit. Okay, so I guess this whole thing is the media kit. So research, adult readers, women readers, tablet demographics. I'm going to click on women readers. And the question is, does it compare with what we have been looking for in the past? So for example, we can see that the majority here is about 18 to 49, but it jumps, no, actually 16,000 is up here. So that confirms it's 50 years and older. See, the majority earns more than 50,000. They are definitely married. They own a home, graduate college, and they have children under the age of 18, or their children are parents. So their children could be parents and they're retired, or they have children under 18, so they could be in that life bracket as well. So that confirms a lot of information. So these are essentially kind of shortcuts that you can take. But in my opinion, I would do these in addition to Alexa and Facebook ad audience insights. So that pretty much confirms a lot. So that is really good information. So I'm going to jot this down here. So as you can see, that confirms a lot of information that we have already dug up, and the pattern is consistent throughout, which is a plus, because now we know that this is for sure our perfect buyer, is within these specific age range, specific education, and more. So now that you have this right information, we can move on to the next video. Welcome to video number 6, and in this particular video I'm going to show you how to map out a typical day of your perfect buyer. Now the reason why you want to do this is because you will get a better perspective of what they are dealing with from day to day, what frustrations they're dealing with, what gets them excited, what gets them mad, what gets them sad, and everything in between. So one of the best ways of doing this is simply really get yourself in the person's shoes. Now, like I said earlier, this is actually harder than it sounds. So the best way of doing this is by going to Google and typing out something like this. So obviously with gardening, the noun of gardening is gardener. So the type of person described in this particular niche is a gardener, right? So I'm going to type that in, gardener, and then I'm going to write the words, 2 words, typical day. Now, there's no guarantee you're not going to always 100% get this, but the nice thing is you're going to be able to see things like YouTube videos and other sorts of media, which we'll talk about in the video after this one. But this will allow you to kind of get into the shoes of someone who is a hyper-responsive buyer and perfect buyer in these niches. So another thing is gardener journals, taking a look at their day-to-day journals. If they have any, I'm sure they have blogs, I'm sure they have different things where they talk about their day. Obviously, an easier way of doing this is to go on a forum and maybe follow a person and see what they are saying. And you can also maybe even contact them and say, hey, you know, I want to talk to you or interview or pay you money to interview you to get an idea of what your typical day looks like. But by doing this process, it's going to really help you out as far as figuring out what potential products and services they will want to buy. Obviously, different people are going to be different, so it's not really 100% one size fits all. But if you talk to a perfect buyer, you will get a better sense of what they are dealing with. So as you can see here, let's just go ahead and click through here. So a day in the life of a landscape gardener. A day in the life of a gardener working at this place, landscape gardener. Day in the life, a typical day. cost of gardener. It's not what we're looking for. Let's see, a day in the life. So I noticed there's a phrase going on here that's very, very similar. A day in the life of head gardener. So maybe I'm going to switch this around, because one thing you'll find out is as you are going through here, you'll notice that they use similar words over and over again. So gardener, a day in the life of a gardener. Ah, look at this. A day in the life of a head gardener. A day in the life of the organic gardener. We can see videos here too. And sometimes watching these videos will definitely help you get a better understanding. But in this specific method, I would just spend about 15 to half an hour to try to map this out. Life in a gardener, a day in the life of a gardener. So I think we have enough tabs open, so let's just take a look. So a typical day. So this is primarily a landscape gardener. It's maybe not what we're looking for, but at the same time, if you are doing landscape gardening and gardening design, kind of specialize in that area, you can read through here. We can see too many typical days for mowed dirt of green acres. So I guess I don't know if his real name is Mow Dirt, but if it is, he gets up and early enough to be at the yard by 6:30 a.m. After loading the extra tools he needs for the day into his already loaded white truck, and then he's on his way with his crew of two by 7 o'clock. The day has just begun and it has already begun to be monotonous. So it seems to me like this is a story, but this is a nice way to write it out. I mean, you can write it out this way, or you can even open up Notepad and just write it out. So we can say 6:30 a.m. We'll say 6:30 a.m. He's up. So we'll do 6:30, and you can do it by half an hour if you want to. You can do it by hour. Doesn't matter. Really, what the further you break it down, the better, obviously. So we can do 7 o'clock a.m. We could even do 6 a.m. So maybe they wake up at this time, or maybe they wake up here. I don't know. With gardening, if you think about it, once the sun rises, especially in the summertime, it gets really hot. So depending on where they are and what season it is, it can be different. But the majority of case, the gardeners that I know specifically, and you can begin to think of people that you know that actually fit this, but a gardener I know, he wakes up, and I know another gardener, she wakes up typically very early, because then you can start your day, you can be out in the nice cool weather, digging and pulling weeds and pruning and doing everything that gardeners love to do in the nice morning cool weather, because it does get hot outside. So we can think they, from about 5 to 6 a.m., they wake up, they get their breakfast and eat it. You can even think, like, what do they eat? You know, that could be potential product or service. And what do? Do they take their medication? You know, are they taking medication that will help them, you know, get excited about the day, get energized about the day? Maybe they eat, you know, supplements and medications, maybe B12 vitamins. Just write it out. There's no right or wrong answer right now. And 7:30 a.m., they're ready to get outside. They start preparing their gardening tools, maybe. By 8 a.m., they're outside. What are they doing outside? So let's just go look through here real quick. A day in the life of head gardener Dave West. Okay. Let's zoom in a little bit here. For 44 years, Dave West has worked as the head gardener of blah, blah, blah mansion. When Dave was hired in, we don't really need to know that. Let's see. Haha, look at that. 5:40 a.m. It's all about the weather. In the morning, my alarm goes off, and before I do anything else, I look out the window. The forecast is crucial in my profession. I watch the weather forecast and start to plan the day's activities. A plan for if it's dry, one for if it is wet. Look at that. So he has contingency plans for when it is rainy and when it is wet, so that he's always doing something. Although my daily routine remains the same, every day is different. Okay, so we could even adjust it according to Dave West. So he's more of the gardener that we're looking for. We're not really looking for a landscaping gardener. So we're going to follow him. 5 a.m. He wakes up. Rain or shine, he has a plan for each. So maybe, gardening tools or rain or shine and dry. So obviously they skip the part where he eats breakfast. So everybody has to eat. So by 7:30 a.m., as you can see here, this is when he starts work. But in between that, we have fulfilled these two items, right? So 7:30 a.m., the big clean, the six of us get everything clean, get everything ready, get their garden tools ready. So 11 a.m., manager's meeting. 11:30 a.m. is beginning to tend to the gardens. So it sounds like typical gardener who, at this point, all the way to 11:30 a.m., some people generally start earlier. So, but between that point, 11 a.m. and, well, we'll just say 10 a.m., so from 7:30 a.m. to about 9:30 a.m., start preparing their gardening tools, gardening equipment, preparation, and planning. Then by 10 a.m., they are outside and beginning to work. So right now, 10 a.m., it's still cool. Even in the summertime, it's not too hot. So hopefully maybe by 10 a.m. And then it starts getting hot at 12 p.m. or even 1 p.m. as we can see here. So lunchtime, they take a break. Maybe we'll do 12 p.m. Actually, we'll do 1 p.m. Realistically, 10, we got 11, 12, 1. So that's 3 hours. So 3 hours of work. At that time, they take a break. They get lunchtime, and so on and so forth. So touring the gardens at 1:30 p.m., labor of love. Okay. Now, can you see why looking at the typical day is so crucial? And then, of course, we look at a day in the life of a head gardener, of a different head gardener. We look through here. Waking up early, sunlight flooding my bedroom room. She has dogs, so she gets up, gets clean, starts sowing seeds, essentially getting her things ready. And she goes out on the water. So this gives us a better idea of what we're dealing with. Let's see. So that's what I would do. I would just go through here and try to figure out what is their typical day look like. If you need to watch YouTube videos and get a visual perspective of what that looks like, then I highly recommend doing that. But try to map it out all the way to the point that they sleep. And from that point, you have it in hand. And what does this do? This helps you greatly because it tells you exactly, what their frustrations are. So if we just look at here closely, so at this age, maybe they're not sleeping well. Maybe that's a frustration that they're dealing with and they need something to help them sleep better. Or at this point, maybe they're just not getting enough energy when they go out, and you can hone in on that. But you would never know this kind of stuff unless you map out their whole day, right? And that's why it's so crucial. But this in itself will help you understand them a lot better, and essentially will help you put yourself in their shoes. Now, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to do what we call media mapping and go and take a step further than that and help you get a better perspective of what they like to watch, what they like, what drives them, what's their motivations. So we're taking things a step further. All right, so I'll see you in the next video. Welcome to video number 7, and we're going to talk about media mapping. And the reason why this is called media mapping is simply because we are going to further put ourselves in the person's shoes by utilizing media sites such as youtube.com and or other sites as well. And this is going to allow us to map out a better view of what our perfect buyer is into, what their perspective is, basically map out their passion about their niche and what they like, what they dislike, what kind of person looks like them, what do they watch as far as documentaries go, what do they watch, what do they like to learn, and everything basically surrounding that particular niche. So if you looked at my previous video and we did a Google of a day in the life of a gardener, we saw a couple of videos that were related. So in this case, I would highly recommend that you watch these so you have a better view of what their day looks like. Now, in addition to that, and what expands on that, is what do they like? So once you watch this, you have a better perspective of their typical day, right? And we can type in Google in YouTube, garden. So we can have gardener or even gardening TV shows and see what we get. And what I would do normally is I would sort it by view count and rating. So we can see view count here, and we can see that the ones on the top are obviously highly viewed. So we have 42,000 views, 67,000 views, 143,000 views. Let's see, Garden Girl TV, 298,000. So this is, if we click on this just to take a look, so it looks like pretty much fits that demographic of female, maybe middle-aged female. And if we go through here, what I like to go through is I like to watch these videos that they watch, and then I like to take a look at the comments that match that particular video to see and get an idea of what people are saying about that particular video. And if I can see patterns or similarities in what people are saying, if somebody is saying over and over again that their frustration is this, or they are passionate about a consistent thing over and over again, then that tells me that there's something there. All right. So that's the whole goal of this. So we can type in gardening TV shows, we can type in garden documentary, and obviously look at the video to make sure that it is related to what we are selling. So gardener, maybe gardening. So try different variations. And typically with this part, I would spend about 30 minutes, and sometimes I'll spend an hour just going through videos. And eventually, after you watch all these videos, you'll just start to see the pains that gardeners go through, what gets them excited, what gets them angry, what gets them mad. And eventually you'll know so much about your niche just by watching these videos. Now, with media, there's different types of media. So you can use other social networking sites such as Instagram to get a better view of the pictures out there. Look at Pinterest to see what people are doing in terms of gardening goes. So you can look at other social networking sites, other different types of media, pictures, videos, text, even podcast, if you can find a podcast, just to get an idea of what your niche, your perfect buyer likes, dislikes, and everything like that. So as you're doing this, you can keep a journal and documentation of the likes, the dislikes, everything that you can think of that would allow you to map out what is going on in your perfect buyer's mind. So that's really what we're trying to do, is essentially map out what is going on in their brain. So the better that you understand that, the better you're going to know when you start to sell your products and services. You'll already be leaps and bounds ahead of most of your competitors at this point, because most of your competitors are not even thinking about doing any of this. So I hope you'd enjoyed this video. In the next video, we are going to talk about buying habits. And what this will reveal to you is what they're willing to buy, what they're willing to spend even more money for, so that you have a better picture of what products and services that you could essentially offer to them. All right, we'll see you there. So congratulations, you've reached the end of this video course, and this particular video is video number 8, and we're going to talk about the buying habits of your perfect buyer, why they buy, what do they buy, and things related. So I'm going to be visiting 2 different websites. We're going to be utilizing the Facebook Ads Audience Insights tool, and second of all, we're going to be utilizing Amazon.com. So Amazon's going to reveal to us a lot of good data as far as buying habits go, and Facebook as well, as far as how much they spend, which is something that is not provided by a lot of tools. So this information is golden. So what I recommend that you do is do the same thing earlier, so gardening, and remember that as we began to realize that by looking at the media kits, by looking at everything else, that our perfect buyer, the person that buys those magazines, is age 50 and older. Now, as we can see looking at Facebook, however, it's about 45 to 64. Now, of course, 22% is 25 to 34. Now, the media kits, however, tell us that it's 50 and older. So that might mean that 25 to 34, they might be interested in gardening, but they may not be spending as much money on gardening as these people up here. So that's essentially what the media kits go with. And I tend to just go with the media kit because those are proven magazines. They have spent millions of dollars into advertising and so forth. So I'm going to go with 45 to 64. So I'm going to go back over here to age, and I'm going to switch it to 45 to 65. So now I am honing in on my perfect buyer. I'm totally ignoring everybody else. Now, you might be thinking, well, won't I be losing sales? Yeah, you might lose a few sales, but if you speak primarily to the extremely interactive, engaging audience, you'll be able to speak to everybody else. And these people are more likely to buy from you anyways. So now that we've honed in on here, what Facebook Ad Audience Insights does now is that it begins to show you the lifestyle pertaining just to that specific gender and age bracket. So you see how powerful this is, and you see how step-by-step process through this whole video course brings you to this point of realization that this is your perfect buyer. So now we can dig into the lifestyle, we can dig into their realistic education levels, relationship, job titles, which we can see overall it's consistent across the board. Now, if we go straight to household, this will begin to tell us how much they can afford. So most of them are earning about 50 to 75 grand. And the second highest is 75 to 100 grand. And we can see that it's not a whole lot here because gardening does cost money if we think about it. And at the end of the day, gardening does cost money. Whether you buy seeds or anything else, the soil costs money, fertilizer costs money, tools cost money. So you kind of have to be making at least some money to actually afford these, unless at this point you have all the tools and everything else. So the reason why I'm saying this out loud to you is because I've realized and I've discovered things along the way. And I really want you to do the exact same thing. Is as you begin to discover things, just speak it out loud and just write it down. Whatever you learn best, just get it ingrained into your brain. So home ownership, we can see that about 82% of them own homes. And if they don't own homes, realistically, if they own like an apartment, they can't really go all out as far as gardening goes. So that kind of confirms that there. Household size, home market value, how much is their home valued at? So we can see that their home is valued about 100,000 to 500,000, so kind of upper middle class section. And spending methods, they use any card, bank card, travel and entertainment, gas, store. So if you look at this picture here, it tells us they do have credit cards. They don't spend a lot on travel and entertainment. They do spend money on gas, which we all do. They spend a good amount of money on their credit card. So they mainly use credit cards. They don't use a lot of cash. They do spend money at upscale department stores. So that kind of gets us thinking, probably a woman. And if we click on purchase, of course, not always, but this is our main demographic. So purchase, retail spending, we can see that it is low as far as retail goes. Online purchases go high. They're very high as far as online purchases go. So if you're selling an online product or service, they're more likely to be into that. So US retail spending, that might be like the majority of retail. So gardening is very specialized. So they're spending more time on tools and seeds and everything else. Purchase behavior, what are they purchasing? So this is going to reveal to you a lot of information. So business purchases obviously are not a lot. Household products, pet products, health and beauty, home and garden, food and drink. So they basically spend most of their money on just basic essentials. Now, as you can see here, I can tell you right off the bat, this particular demographic also have tons of pets. So they love pets. And so you can see that they spend a lot of money on pet products. So now that you have mapped out their typical day, you can also get an idea of what other different products you can sell to them, not just within that particular gardening niche, but other niches as well. So in market for vehicle, we can actually see what kind of vehicles that they purchased. So a lot of convertibles, sports cars, mid-size cars, luxury sedans. So now that we have a brief idea of what their spending habits look like, we can go over to Amazon and we can type in something like gardening. And I'm going to sort by, average customer review. So obviously the more customer reviews, the better. And this will tell me what exactly are they spending their money on. So we can see garden knife with extra sharp stainless steel blade. So I'm getting the feeling that they want quality tools, because if you garden enough, your tools will eventually get used and may rust away. So you definitely want good quality stuff. So pruning gloves, about 24 bucks. We're looking through here. We have $10, 21, 26, 15, 33. Now, you notice I'm looking at the price points, right? And the reason being is because I want to get an idea, do they spend a lot of money on low ticket items, or do they spend a lot of money on high ticket items? Maybe they spend a lot of money on low ticket items so that they can get a lot more supply of tools, books. So, and this, what this does is allows us to scroll through and get an idea of what they're buying. Like if the average customer view is greater, that means that there's a large amount of people that are buying it. Because if you think about it, most of us don't really leave reviews on Amazon. So the people that do, there's actually a lot more people that buy it as well. So as we go through, we can see a lot of tools, hoe tools, garden knife tools, pruning gloves. And we could even click here to get an idea. And what I like about Amazon as well is they give you categories within the main category so that you can actually break things down and have a better view of what kind of different types of things that are being sold. So we got vegetable, plants, and seeds. And if we do average customer review, this allows us to see what is being bought the most. So if we go down through here, we see a lot of seeds. And we can also take a look at books too. So if I go back over here, take a look at books, we can see that these books have a good amount of reviews, each one of these. So we're looking at 1,000, 500, 147. So a really good amount. And they're about $15 to $20 each. So that gives me an idea of what their price points look like. And of course, I can go through here. I can look at the customer reviews. And generally speaking, what I try to look for is consistent patterns. Patterns in what people are saying, the positives, and what people are saying they like, what they're saying that they dislike, and everything in between. So I look for patterns because patterns generally tell me that there's something consistent. And if there's something that is consistent, then that tells me that it might be worth looking into. So I hope you enjoyed this video course as much as I enjoyed teaching it. Make sure that you go step by step and implement the whole process so that you can find your perfect buyer.